Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'll do a short introduction shortly, but we just have a small presentation for you first. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch that. I'm sure a lot of you have already had that kind of introduction to Laureti, but for those that haven't been here with us before, welcome to our Investor Demo Day for Laureti. My name's Daisy Bell. I've met most of you in the room now, but I host various radio shows throughout the UK for BBC, Capital, and I work within the tech space as well. And I've been working with Laureti for the last few years now on the various demo days, launch days, and it's been quite interesting to see how the project is growing, how the vision is growing and going from strength to strength. So it does feel like quite a special project for me because I was here from, well, it wouldn't be the beginning for Marcus, but more or less the beginning for the launches. So today is all about an exclusive presentation to a carefully selected list of investors as Laureti goes live on the Floww platform in a couple of weeks. This is very much a bit of a hybrid event. Thank you to those of you that have joined us today here at this lovely Sanctum Hotel. We also have quite a few investors joining us remotely as well today. As we start the programme, I would love to welcome David from Floww to just give us a few opening remarks. If you'd like to come and take to what we're going to call the stage today. Welcome, David. Good to see you again as well.
Thanks, Daisy. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. As Daisy said, my name is David. I represent Floww. So, for those of you who aren't aware, Floww is a strategic partner of the London Stock Exchange Group. And to that end, my role within Floww is to help founders like Marcus kind of navigate that complex funding continuum. Over the last couple of years, having worked in startups myself, I was constantly baffled by what a cottage industry VC can be, and that for so long, the private markets have been inefficient and illiquid and untradeable. And when I came across Floww, we believe that that needs to change, and that the industry that supports innovation in the UK and around the world is sorely in need of some innovation itself. And I think from where we stand, we believe in a future where trading stocks in private companies, private assets and funds is as easy as trading within the public markets today. So when I met Marcus about 9 months ago, I was kind of baffled by this very ambitious plan to revolutionise and actually, in some ways, lead an industry. And I think that's exactly what Floww itself is about, is trying to find those people who have ambitious plans and helping them realise them. Thank you very much for your time.
So next we are going to welcome Samir Raina. He's actually joined us from his headquarters today via a video message. He was here with us last time, and well, for those of you that don't know, he's of Forvia, which was known as Faurecia. You may be more familiar with that. And Forvia is now the 7th largest company in automotive supply chain. So it's really one of those French jewels really leading the way. And what's really funny about this is when Samir was with us last time, he said something quite similar to David. And when he first met Marcus, he kind of said how crazy he thought Marcus was with this huge vision for what he wanted to do. But then he actually went on to say that Forvia today have huge budgets going towards passenger-centric technology and research as well. So I think it's quite amazing to state as well that Forvia were one of the earliest supporters of Laureti, and I guess it goes to show that Marcus isn't so crazy after all. So we're going to hear a few remarks from Samir now, who has kindly left us a video. And
very good afternoon to all of you. It's indeed a pleasure and a privilege for me to present a brief overview on mobility from an insider industry perspective. But before we go there, just a brief introduction from my side. My name is Samir Raina. I'm responsible for strategic competitiveness and digital transformation at Forvia and GES. For the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about evolution and emergence of what we call a passenger-centric cockpit, an automotive interior based on our experience and the lens of an industry insider, we being a major tier 1 supplier. We're going to start with a very brief introduction of Forvia, followed by how we are seeing a paradigm shift in mobility resulting primarily due to an unprecedented disruption happening all around us, and how that is leading towards a fundamental shift from a driver-centric approach towards the emergence of what we call a passenger-centric cockpit. And then very briefly, I will lay out our vision on this topic, which is essentially what we also presented at the CES in Las Vegas this year. Now let's move on. For those of who are not very familiar with Forvia, formerly known as ForAsia, we are a global automotive technology leader with the worldwide presence, with R&D and tech at the core of our growth. We have 6 international business groups comprised of differentiating product lines, as shown here on the slide: seating, interiors, clean mobility, automotive electronics, lighting, and then finally the life cycle solutions. Now let's have a quick look at how the mobility paradigm shift is that the one that we are experiencing is happening all across us. I think it's needless to emphasize that since the past few years and lately as well, we are experiencing an unprecedented disruption across all walks of life and across all businesses, right from automated driving to electrical vehicles to artificial intelligence to shared economy. We are experiencing an exponential change almost everywhere. Now, has all of this impacted the automotive industry and essentially the meaning of mobility? I think definitely yes. I'll be making, I think, an understatement if I don't acknowledge that the fundamental meaning of an automobile itself is changing as we speak. It's not any longer about what you drive, but it's more about what you do inside the car. And in the future, it's going to be more and more about that. What are you actually experiencing inside the vehicle? And for any other form of mobility, any other means of mobility for that matter. In the past, from an absolute joy of traveling, it moved on to joy of ownership and freedom. And now we are moving more towards the joy of space and time, which is redeemed from driving itself. Now let's have a look at how we are experiencing an emergence of this passenger-centric cabin or a cockpit. With mobility at the center of the ecosystem, the key drivers of societal, consumer, and technological trends are moving this mobility playbook towards an experience that is completely centered around the passenger. Consumers today, they are looking for protection, they're looking for experience, they're looking for well-being, and on top of that, they are socially conscious than ever, and they still expect all of this at a very affordable price. Growing urbanization, wealth inequalities, climate change, aspiration of millennials and Gen Z are shaping the landscape of mobility for good, and I think even for better. Now, and all of this is powered by exponential technological advancement. The speed of change in the mobility sector has accelerated a lot. And to conclude, I mean, the passenger is basically at the epicenter of innovation and design of all our products, all our services, and the experience that is offered inside the vehicle. Now, I'll briefly share with you, mostly in visuals and a couple of videos, our vision of this passenger-centric cockpit, which we, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, which we also recently unveiled at the CES 2023 in Vegas. The visuals and the videos that you'll see are basically centered around 3 pillars. The first one is sustainability. The second one is what we call natural human interaction, to offer a very natural biological human environment inside the car. And the third one is what we call as the third place. It's more like an audio-visual self-explanatory sequence of slides and videos. And you will get to experience from what we presented at Vegas, a little bit of a more in-depth of how we perceive the interior of a cabin. This is the demo vehicle that we unveiled at Vegas this year. You can here see the complete snapshot of how the cabin or the interiors look like. From some different views, from different angles, just to give you a look and feel of how user-centric, how passenger-centric all of this is. The features, the experience, the perceived quality. And then, as I explained about the pillars of sustainability and expanding space, because of the EV architecture, you will see more of that in the upcoming slides. How we are managing those through materials and technology-enabled architecture by 30%, approximately 30% CO2 emission reduction versus the average. How we are expanding the space by having an instrument panel reduced by 40% in X and Z direction, and about 380 mm in X direction, to have an unequal leg space in the rear. Artificial leather with recycled natural fiber content, woven natural fibers on the interiors, radiant panels for energy efficiency, heated windshield again for energy efficiency, to have lower load on the HVAC, surprising storages across the cabin, huge free space in front of the co-driver, design freedom. Video to show that. Moving on, again, a few examples of the design freedom that you can see on the door panel with movable storages. How we can convert this into an office space. Screen mirroring, infotainment, business class experience at the rear. Personalized sound bubbles. That's it from my side. And thank you to Marcus for allowing me the opportunity to present our thoughts, Forvia thoughts on how we perceive and see the future of this passenger-centric cockpit and user-centric cabin. Thank you very much for your time and patience.
Our next guest speaker is going to be Bernd Mattner, who a lot of us were lucky enough to meet the last time as well. So for those that don't know, he's a member of the EU Senate and actually chair of mobility in EU Tech as well. And he's also a board member of Autosar, which is a company made up of 16 Bavarian companies ultimately. So you've got Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, Siemens. And Bernd Mattner has constantly endorsed Laureti from the beginning as well, and he plays a key role in his role on the software standardization and user experience. His native language is German, so an extra thank you today for him delivering the message in English for us. And this is a further 10 minutes for you to take the time to listen to and watch.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to take part on this special day where I have the opportunity to share a few insights about the industry I love. First of all, I congratulate Laureti for being launched on the Floww platform. My name is Bernd Mattner and I'm chair of the Mobility Alliance at the European Technology Chamber and a senator of the European Senate of Economy. In my full-time role, I'm founder and CEO of Floww and serving the AUTOSAR Development Corporation. AUTOSAR is one of the largest global standardization organizations in the automotive industry, active in the standardization of a software framework and methodology for future E&E architectures. The organization was established 20 years ago, and the core partners are 9 of the largest automotive companies, including the OEMs BMW, Mercedes, VW Group, Stellantis, Toyota, General Motors and Ford. AUTOSAR currently has over 360 partner companies, including 21 of the biggest OEM who, before COVID pandemic, have been responsible for more than 80% of the global automotive companies' revenue. My advisory role revolves between the steering committee and the executive board in addressing key aspects of industry development and innovation and matters related to software standardization, focusing on functional safety and cybersecurity. In my typical working day, I get to interact with both legacy companies and startups in my sector. I have been closely watching the progress of Laureti for some time, and I'm pleased to see how it evolved over time. Some of you may also know that I have provided a review and co-authored the white paper that Laureti has released early this year. I will be touching upon some of these points in my talk today. Being in the automotive industry for a while, as an insider, I get to witness some of the most exciting developments and innovations, as well as certain old thinking and that frustrates the forward culture. If you'll allow me, I first would like to start with what seems missing in the industry. We all know that the trends towards electric vehicles is driving the transformation to the future automotive industry. But it's not just about going electric anymore. Changing ownership trends, rising on-demand options, flexible operator options, digitized mobility services, artificial intelligence and machine learning, highly automated and autonomous vehicle technologies are laying the foundation for transforming the way people will do their daily commute in future. On one hand, public and private organizations are being forced to adapt to cleaner, greener and more sustainable practices. On the other hand, mobility users demand accessible, efficient, cost-effective and more productive commutes. The emerging mobility needs, combined with some fundamental paradigm shifts, will likely force the car makers to offer mobility users more than just cars, causing industries to increasingly look for solutions from outside, from new technologies to creating business models, and from supply chains to finance. The new approach is to put the end user at the center of its development to recenter value through a seamless ecosystem. But who is the end user of a car? It's no longer just drivers. It will be the passenger. This changes everything in how cars and even various modes of transport have been traditionally serving customers. It's time to look at the mobility from a human-centric, that means passengers or mobility users, view to make a new mobility truly sustainable, both in environmental and economic terms. At the moment, it's not yet evident that the automotive industry sees it in the same way. It's because by adapting to that perspective, the focus will also shift. And focus is money. For the traditional car makers, this could appear to be a pure cost factor. Startups may see this as an investment and an opportunity to innovate and disrupt. some automotive companies are smart enough to invest or acquire new technologies from startups without having to divert their focus themselves. However, the frustrations of this industry still remain to be addressed, and please allow me to touch upon 3 of these frustrations very briefly. The first one I'd like to talk about is the user paradigm. If you are as old as me, you can remember the time when having a car was considered as an asset. As owners were the attention as users. Today, owning your own vehicle is usually just a burden. This view is rapidly spreading across the globe. More and more people understand that buying an expensive car, at least in cities with a 30-mile limit, adds no value to their daily life. Generation Z wants to pursue its culture of remote work, unbound by location or time, and not own a car. The global dominance of Uber and other ride-hailing companies is a strong indication that car ownership in cities will continue to decline. Robotaxis are running now real-world pilots. The trend towards on-demand mobility knows only one direction, upwards. But imagine what it looks like for the passenger today. Imagine you are blindfolded and put in the back of a seat of a car. Are you able to identify whether it's a premium car or a basic car, or whether it's a brand you like? In other words, if you call any vehicle today, your experience in the back seat will be almost the same. Today's proposition of car is not going to fulfill the needs of an evolving class of users. If we don't think and act quickly, we, at least some of us in the industry, may realize that we will end up being victims of an unavoidable disruption. The second is about sustainability. Electrification is a sustainable option, but our job is not complete there. Just gathering the forecast numbers available on the public domain, the OEM seems to promise their production of tens of millions of electric vehicles in the coming years. I have no doubt in their ability to produce, but I'm struggling to answer how that is going to help us reaching sustainable goals without considering, for instance, lifetime operations and utilization of mobility resources. In my opinion, however, software and service-based mobility models will deliver the real results, primarily to a major increase in the uses of transport modes and combined with electrification. Lastly, data privacy and digital sovereignty. This is a topic that is close to my heart. I see the exponential digitization of mobility on a day-to-day basis as I interact with lots of companies in new tech. It is exciting, but it is also worrying. On one hand, I see the various applications of artificial intelligence and automation, both in vehicles, various modes of transportation and services, which is the exciting part. The worrying part is no one is really thinking about how can we protect the users from potential risks. Imagine having a certain vehicle's data and a certain user data and combining it with artificial intelligence. Is it unthinkable that an AI system could predict where, at what time, that person will be in 3 months' time on a particular day of the week? What does it mean to our privacy and safety? What does it mean for companies and their workforce who need to protect the privacy of their employees? What does it mean to women or elderly people? What does it mean for the government? And what does it mean for parents or a grandfather like me who are waiting for their children to come home from school by an on-demand service? I'm speaking today because the Laureti business model seems to address these problems before it's too late. I've been a strong supporter of what they are trying to build since the day I learned about their plan. I like how they are shifting the paradigm from users being the owners or drivers to passengers. I think it's very timely and we need it. I also respect the fact that they are serious acting upon the issue of data privacy and digital sovereignty in the mobility sector. Addressing these issues from the beginning is crucial, as this will be a matter of credibility and trust. I believe if Laureti can deliver on its promise, it can be a game changer. A while ago, I read an article about Laureti on Daily Invest. If Laureti could help solve the emission issue, it will be the next Tesla. I find myself agreeing with that assessment. I hope Laureti will receive the support they seek to deliver on its promise. I wish Laureti the best and hope that the demo day is a great success. Sorry I can't be there in person today, but please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you all for your time and attention. Marcus, back to you.
And thank you to Bernd Mattner as well for continuing to volunteer to endorse Laureti. For now, we are going to welcome our CEO of Laureti finally to the stage to talk us through this launch on the Floww platform as well. So without further ado, Marcus Paleti, it's your turn to take to the stage.
Today, firstly, welcome. Thanks for taking the time. Those who are here and those who are joining us online as well. So, quick introduction. I'm Marcus, the founder of Laureti Group. We are a global mobility tech company. Before I continue on with my presentation, let me just give you a quick story about why we started Laureti and why it is the company what it is today, how it evolved, sort of a short story. When we first started, it was just an EV, electric vehicle startup. The focus was mostly on the electric vehicle based in emerging markets. But at the time, there were startups. If they called themselves Tesla killers and have some credible partnerships, they raised money. I mean, we had the same chance as them as well. And some of them managed to go to the next level. And in fact, we know a lot of companies who raised billions of dollars, and quickly after that, they went bust. Then, I mean, this was a time also quite crucial for me because there was this harrowing question in my mind. What's so special about Laureti apart from wanting a slice of this emerging market? On the same occasion, we had a situation where we had to take several international trips to meet with OEMs and automotive supply chain companies, including Faurecia. Actually, Faurecia came later on, but before we met with a lot of other companies. So one thing that I paid attention to, this particular trip, it was compact and draining. And we turned up to meetings, almost, with this massive fatigue and achieved less than what we prepared for. And when I came back from that trip, I spent some time researching on corporate travel a little bit. So what I discovered was, or let's say if you travel 5 or 6 hours on plane, the longer the car journey was, that contributes. That's a huge fatigue contributor. After a bit of research, that the deeper we went into this problem, the more clear it was what we need to be solving. So at this point, I was on the fence line of whether this is the problem we wanted to solve. And then comes an Indian trip, a crucial meeting. Actually, we were almost late because we've been invited by the Prime Minister's office in India to go visit them. So because of the travel delays, we nearly missed that meeting. So that's an eye-opener. And it all came down to one thing. Car journeys, especially when it comes to corporate travel, this is a huge, huge, huge problem. That light bulb moment is what pivoted to what Laureti is today. And where we find ourselves today, I can assure you that we are at the foundation to this emerging passenger experience economy. By now, on your daily interaction, no matter what mode of transport you're interacting with, you can tell the future of mobility is digital, on-demand, and connected. And we're looking at the evolution of a $1 trillion market that's going to be in the next 4 to 5 years. And we released a white paper about that early this year in January, which goes into detail of what factors contributing that. And so, in order to understand what exactly we're disrupting our solution, maybe it's a good start to take a look at what the state of mobility is today. So, travel in general. I mean, I'm sure most of you, as business people, you must have spent your lives traveling on business travel, and you know how punishing that can be. Travel itself, from your own experience, in general, is highly fragmented, especially when it comes to international journeys, where multiple legs of journeys involved. And then you have the outdated corporate travel. For the past decade or so, they've been looking for a solution. Despite paying the top dollar, there's no productivity in your corporate travel. There's high inefficiencies. And also, there's a huge impact on health and wellness. And they've been desperately looking for a solution. And then you have declining car ownership. This is common across emerging countries and also across Europe and UK and also in North America. It's because the new generation, everybody else, and the trends are now is adapting to on-demand mobility. And then you have the rise of AI and autonomous technologies, especially in the past years. This is only going to be exponentially growing. And then all these factors should make you ask a question, because the natural progression of an electric vehicle will be an autonomous vehicle. And we're not that far. If you don't have to drive a car anymore, the day will come soon. What would you do it? And that was the premise of Laureti's business model. And the more we dig deep into it, I can tell you that the last 100 years, cars have always been about the driver, but the next 100 will be about the passenger. And Laureti is at the forefront of this new movement. So the vision is, Laureti's vision is to create seeing the passenger-centric future and to make it more seamless, productive, and accessible to people. I know the accessible part is here, but I'll explain a bit more further into my presentation. But the real idea behind that is, how do we give back the richness of time that we generally lose in age now? And for that, we wanted to create the ecosystem, just like your cell phones, that's intertwined with our lives. And we run our lives on a day-to-day basis. So we wanted to make mobility seamless and personal and portable to you. So, if you quantify 700 million hours multiplied by whatever the average executive salary needs, and you can see what the losses are. This is what you see today. This is a snapshot of from mass models all the way up to 120,000, 8,000 vehicle, 8,000 pound vehicle. You see that pretty much nothing has been changed for the last 50 years or so. So let me show you a day in the user experience video to demonstrate really what we're trying to create, the experience we'll get out of it. So from what you saw from that video, in order to create this experience, our solution is a combination of hardware, software, and service elements. Hardware, everything that comes in contact with the passenger and user. So the software bit it's responsible for creating that in-cabin experience, also providing that beyond the vehicle door experience as well to concierge assistance. And also the service element is a business strategy where it takes away the ownership burden from the end user and converts it into a business opportunity for fleet providers, for example, the likes of Addison Lee. So what do we really offer? The proposition is we produce a flexible in-cabin design that can go into multiple vehicle programs, and we power them with our core technology, Mira OS. This is the iteration of Mira 1. This is a business lounge on wheels where you can work, you can indulge yourself and disconnect from the world. So that's the visual demonstration of what we're trying to do. But in real life, with the hands of Lotus, it'll be 1,000 times better. And this experience is also portable. What I mean by that is a lot of the software and digital assets can be repurposed or cross-pollinated into various modes of transport, including taxis, coaches, and trains, and etc. So one thing that I want to briefly touch upon in terms of Mira is privacy respect. And we all heard about the privacy issues when Bernd talked about it earlier. So there's one particular thing that I want to highlight here is the privacy and security, data security factor. See, when let's say 10 years ago or so, all we care about having a social media account or Facebook account, whatnot, without much thought given to how our data being used or data security, etc. And maybe the risk at the time probably sat at your computer level. With AI, things are getting slightly complex. But going forward, the risk is not about your home computer. It's about every single move you make outside your home. And just combine that with AI. How easy is that for me to look at your car travel patterns? Or let's see if I have a regular customer on a fleet, and use AI to predict, where that person might be in 3 months' time on a particular day or a particular time. So that level of predictions and data is quite important because especially the clients we're targeting, businesses, whether it be governments, etc., they need that protection. So what we're doing here is looking at that future. We're building a secure architecture from the beginning where we guarantee 100% digital freedom on this platform. This way, we're not monetizing on people's data. We're giving back the privacy that they need, which is, I think, going to be one of the rarest commodities of the future. Now, the meter is also a globally connected ecosystem. It doesn't matter if you take a taxi powered by Laureti meter, or if you're in a flagship vehicle, or in some other vehicle in some other location. The experience is portable. You're working here on the screen, so you got out of your taxi and you had your meeting and came back and got into another Laureti. Yeah, you can pick up the same presentation, and you don't have to carry a laptop. So that is how seamless we're making it. We're the first company to offer something like this. So with every meter user being connected to every Laureti powered vehicle and vice versa, the experience is portable no matter where you are. So in all this, you're seeing car itself is becoming a small proposition of the entire, a smaller part of the bigger proposition, the entire proposition. So let's talk about the car, how we're doing this. 85% of the vehicle is coming in as a single commodity, and the rest of it is our flexible in-cabin design powered with operating system. And the output is a passenger-centric product, a highly designed one that goes into on-demand fleet, chauffeur services at Uber Lux or Black Lane, Wheelie, etc. And then we have, interestingly, the repurposed cross-pollinated proposition to multi-modal transport such as trains, planes, etc. And then private use is something 20% of, it comprises 20% of our market that's mostly focused on chauffeur-driven cultures such as the Middle East or and South Asia, where you have, if you spend 50, 60 grand on a car, you have a driver with it. But the big question is, why do fleets prefer Laureti as opposed to, let's say, you have S-Class, Mercedes S-Class here, and then you have a Laureti that's built on S-Class. Why would people buy our vehicle? And here's the difference. We offer a membership, a subscription service to corporates to bring their corporate travelers into our ecosystem for a fee. And let's imagine a place like Wall Street or Canary Wharf. Let's say we have 50,000 accounts. And we also know how many executives that frequently travel or their car usage, etc. And here you are with a fleet company or transport provider. Here's S-Class, which is, let's say, 80,000. And here is Laureti that's built on S-Class, 84,000 with 4,000 pounds difference. You're not just buying a car, you're also buying the accounts. And with that, you're seeing a great level of predictability into your business. And that also allows you to calculate how much fleet that you need, where the proper allocation will be. And also, from our study, it's a survey from different executives. People are willing to pay 30% price per mile premium for a service like this than the average Uber Lux price. So obviously, because of the higher margins and also more frequency and less volumes, we're giving a greater benefit to the fleet. So just like our development model, the revenue mode is also modular and diverse. We're still selling a car. So we're making a decent profit, small margin on that. And then the monthly subscription revenue, which will be recurring. And then 1/3 of our revenue comes from the monthly subscription, the end user, and also from technology licensing. If you look at, we have a pretty unique financial profile because of the vehicle sales, you have this huge revenue in this bucket, and very small profit. But when it comes to software, you have this small revenue bucket, but really big profit margins. So it's a very interesting combination. One thing that this our model allows us to do is to go asset free. We are more asset free than asset light. We still have some capex, but we are more asset free. So what does it mean? It means that we don't have to get into expensive engineering programs or building factories all over the world. our model allows us to go set up a shop in our OEM partners. And let's say if I have to deliver 10,000 cars in the US, I'll go set up a shop inside Ford or someone else. Or in Europe, maybe Volvo. So this is how we're moving away from any expensive traditional approach to an asset-light, datist model. So the go-to-market plan is pretty robust. Initially, using Lotus as a partner, we'll introduce 2 vehicles. And the first 2 vehicles, one of them will be a black taxi, in which we'll put the full-fledged ecosystem inside it, which will run as a pilot for 6 months in London. It has 3 benefits. One is to validate our commercial assumptions, because this is the only product, or it's the first product of the market. So it also creates an engineering loop back to our engineers to make improvements on the experience. And third is also bring in introduce people into Laureti ecosystem as well. So this way, even before our flagship vehicle comes out into production, we already have a strong user base. So this is how we're planning to get into the market. So at a granular level, what we're doing is we're partnering with an airport lounge company, which has 67 business lounges in the world. They have actually 6 million memberships. So the idea is to reach the first 100,000 memberships. The first 100,000 memberships will help us to calculate what the usage is and go to the fleet companies to get pre-orders that the companies that already showed interest that convert into binding purchase orders. So by the time we finish the pilot, we already have a strong surplus order base in our balance sheet. So with that approach, we're building a very unique financial profile and also strong validation going into the market. Now, here's our team, come from all these great companies. So we got Nick Sampson, great guy, former engineering director of Tesla, who worked with Elon for 12 years, and he's advising. And then Paul is the ex-CEO of Daimler Innovation. Between us, we have about 200 plus years of experience. The least experienced person in this is myself. All I know is just how to put things together and innovate. So one thing that I want to touch upon is sustainability. The role of an electric vehicle, or the job of an electric vehicle, is to reduce emissions on the streets. But what about the emissions through the value chain, the production process, and the lifetime of the vehicle? And these are questions that many people, we still struggle with this question, and none of us know what to talk about. I think the answer is in this model, where traditionally, when you have to manufacture a car, you're moving parts from continent to continent. In this case, we don't have to do that, because for make where we sell policy, make where we sell model, we're cutting a lot of logistics moving back and forth. And then you have the meter factor here is that because the fleets can predict where the jobs will be, there's going to be a right allocation. We know, just looking at the average London car, whether it's Uber or Black Taxi, every 4 miles of paid ride, you have to drive 6 miles of unpaid miles. So essentially, you're burning rubber on the streets. So with this, we should be able to allocate the vehicles at the right location, at the right time. And I think what we can really say is, in addition to providing electric vehicle with a combination of software and service models, we have the opportunity to at least aim for a net zero proposition down the line. What you're seeing here is a few studies that came out last year. So now the industry started to realize, putting white papers to it. And I basically, when I'm reading these things, and it's like reading my own business model. Except that we thought about these things a few years ahead, a few years before. Now, all this points to one thing: our thought leadership and validation. So, as a last thought, when you think about automotive companies, main players in that industry, for example, you think about cars, you think about VW and BMW, Nissan, and all these guys, but you don't really think about Apple or Huawei or Oppo. But we have to pay attention to this, because these guys are spending billions, pouring billions into the R&D of electric vehicle. They have their own electric vehicle and autonomous vehicle programs. And makes you question, why is it? I think they understand that the future of mobility is not about building metal structures. It's not about moving people from place to place. It's about making mobility work for people. And that's where the real economy is. And that's where things are headed. Whether Laureti does it or someone else, but things will happen this way. And a few updates here. We're going live on Floww. That's very soon. So make sure to check it out. And we are releasing the Laureti app, through which most corporates can simply go in and sign up based on their fleet requirements and claim the pilot vehicle, keep it for a few hours or half a day, depending on the size of the company, and experience it and bring your entire fleet solution onto a platform if you like it. But at the beginning of my talk, I talked about passenger experience economy. I talked about the $1 trillion market. And I strongly believe we're offering Laureti as a way to own the future economy that's evolving right in front of us. And that's going to be there for the next 100 years. So I strongly recommend that you go and check out the investor shop. Will go live on the platform. Check it out. If any questions, do let me know. So do you have any questions that I can answer? Or anyone from Floww as well? So please, anyone?
I think, great presentation. I think the thing that it seems like a very, very complex problem. So, whilst I appreciate the solution and the innovation, can you give us a little bit more on what makes you so certain that this is going to be the future of the industry?
The complexity side of it, do you want me to address? And why? Yeah. So let's be very clear. This is not the next tender or next Twitter. This is, it's easy for me to explain what an electric car is. It's easy for me to explain. How do you explain iPhone, what an iPhone is in the era of Nokia? So that's the complexity, I generally face with people. But ultimately what's happening is that people have to look at the trends. Innovation, of course, is sometimes fearful for people. And we invite investors who are looking for innovative and strong market validated solutions to look at it. So that, we don't have to explain complexity to that extent if people are wired to look at what's new to come.
There's one other point that's I think comes from Bernd later.
But
You mentioned that established brands tend to buy up innovative startups.
Yep.
Have you considered what that could look like, or if any of the current partnerships you've got in the line wanted to change?
Yeah, actually, there are companies who wanted to buy us out. I mean, some of them, we already saw them today. So they said, well, bring your team, bring your technology, and we'll fund you, and you'll be part of our team. There'll be a new division. And going forward, I think if there's an offer like this, so did you say an exit for me?
Yes.
Okay. So, that was a potential exit at the time. My shareholders just went out. We considered, what the decision is. We collectively make decisions. And exit for me exit for the company will be dependent on what, it's not just me, but what the shareholders want to do. And it's pretty much tied up to my aspirations as well. I want to see this through. However, if I'm not the right guy to, let's say, to run the company after a certain stage, if I'm not the qualified one to take the company from 100 million to 100 billion, if there's somebody else that could do the job, I don't have that ego to step away and say, you carry the torch. And yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last question would be, what's the kind of 5-year plan? If you say, somebody else could take it from 100 million to 100 billion, what does the next 5 years look like for it?
Next 5 years, I think multimodal thing, because France has banned the short-haul flights in April. the same suit will follow with different European countries as well. So if you don't have to take flights anymore, you probably have to use trains. Especially this is true for corporate travelers. You want to show your sustainability impact report with your travel habits, you need something like this. So if you're spending more hours in the train, in travel, you want to be productive and you want your employees to turn up to meetings, more energetic. So there is a lot of these problems that need to be solved outside of automotive. I think we will have an established ecosystem that we can actually sell it to. I think there's going to be a lot of revenue that will be generated even outside, especially outside of the automotive or what we're focusing on right now. So as this technology matures and penetrates, we didn't know what the app revenue was when the iPhone was first put out, right? Or all the monetization models. I think the monetization models will emerge. So I can definitely see that.
And your go-to-market strategy is through automobiles, right? In terms of OEM partners outside of Lotus, what other manufacturers are interested in taking on these type of projects?
We spoke to many manufacturers. The thing is, they all have great volumes because they already promised to the market they were going to produce that many cars. It's not just produce it; they already built factories to facilitate that. Right? They already taken grants. They already committed to building those factories. That means they need volumes. So we're not approaching so many other OEMs because Lotus is strategically chosen for one purpose. Because Lotus is owned by a company called Geely. Geely also owns London Taxi, Volvo, Polestar, and 3 other brands. So it's just a company. Lotus has the relationship and the visibility to go and get us whatever program we need to go for. Someone like Lotus can engineer that for you. So that's the whole point. Yeah.
Couple of questions. One, are you open to selling to connected mobility software in itself if big brands are open to working with you? And
No.
Other one is, where are you in terms of the technology development and not in fitting out the car with Lotus?
Sure. So 2 questions there. So the answer is no, and let me tell you why. We won't sell the software out. It's like, iPhone, Apple. You can't sell iOS and leave the hardware. So for the ecosystem to work perfectly, you need everything to work. And that's why that ecosystem is quite important. And also there's a commercial factor to it, right? So in this model, what is Mira doing really? Mira captures everybody, the users into the ecosystem. And there's a vertical proposition there. So if I start selling it to other brands, I'm cannibalizing my own market share. And then they get to own their own users. So here, Mira owns the accounts of Mira owns the users. And that is a very strong proposition for fleet companies like transportation companies. I can go to them and say, look, I have these users here in all of Mayfair or where we are now in 1 square mile radius. These are how many clients you got. That's the upward demand that we're trying to create. And that's why we won't sell it. Software alone, it doesn't work out. But the second question is, how far are we in this development? So the software architecture is ready. So all we have to do in 6 weeks, when we have the funds, 16 weeks time, we can deliver the beta in the car. And it's not that we're building from scratch, but just to be very clear, the architectural, the foundation operating system, it does already exist. It's not available for general use, but it's available for enterprise use. So it's now being used by $1 trillion company. So that is how secure it is. So it's a California-based company with whom we already have a partnership. So upon which all we have to do is just to build experience frameworks.
I don't know if anyone else. Quick one from me. I think you talked a little about the data part being owned by the passenger, and how does that work essentially? Like if you're not collecting the data, how do you improve the experience?
Okay. So this technical part, of course, I'm happy to send the POV, but I'll give you a high-level analogy. A high-level answer here. To give an accurate and personalized service, you need the data of the user so it feeds in to create the next level of experience accurately from one leg of the journey to another, right? And after that, you don't need the exact personal data. You can anonymize that. You can detach from personal identity to create a statistical set of data, right? Look at any tech company, including Apple, there's a trust clause. So the trust clause essentially is, we have all your data, trust us, we don't touch it. In our case, we don't even have the cookies policy because we simply don't interact with it, because here's the locker service. Only you have the key, only you have access to the building. And after use, it's all going to be anonymized for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for the presentation. We're going to give you a little bit of a round of applause. But of course, thank you everyone that joined us in the room today and everyone that joined us online as well. Thank you for your time. If you require any more questions, please do join us upstairs for drinks, should you be able to hang about. But thank you so much for your time today. I've been Daisy Bell, and hopefully see you next time as well.